Hi guys, so Michael Gove was wheeled out in front of the media to defend Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings, of course, over Dominic Cummings' shenanigans. So let's hear what he had to say.
So many questions to ask you straight off the bat. What's the government advice if you're struggling with COVID-19 and it's affected your eyesight?
I'm sorry, Kay, I didn't hear that question. You said, what's the government advice? And then the rest of it was a bit crackly.
I will ask you again.
I'm sorry.
No problem, no problem. If you're struggling with COVID-19 and you think you've got a problem with your eyesight, what is the government advice?
Well, I think that different people will take different steps in order to make sure that their eyesight is properly addressed.
But that's not answering the question. The question was, what is the government advice? Not, what should people do in general if they can't see very well? No, she asked a very clear question. I know you probably didn't hear it, or you pretended not to hear it, but it was, what is the government advice? Not, what is general advice?
What's the government advice?
Well, we advise people, obviously, to seek medical advice.
So it's not to get in a car and drive half an hour with your 4-year-old strapped in the back?
Well, as we know, I know Dominic, and I know you're alluding to Dominic.
Alluding to Dominic, yes. Because there is no evidence to support any rule or any advice in the advice given by the government that says, yes, you should drive half an hour around if you don't feel that you can see very well.
Was given the all clear by the medics. He was told that it was safe for him to return to work.
I asked this question on the live stream, and I asked it in another video. Who are these medics? Who are these people that said to Dominic Cummings, yes, it's okay for you to get in a car, even if you can't see very well, and drive around for half an hour, and make sure to go with your child in the back seat? Who are these people? Because if these people actually exist, I don't believe that they do. They are invented. But if they did exist, they should be sacked because they're giving terrible medical advice.
He wanted to make sure before he did return to work that he was in good condition in order to be able to drive the long journey back down the A1.
What's very interesting about this entire interview, so I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler at the moment, at the beginning. Listen to how confident Michael Gove is about certain things that Michael Gove could not be confident about, and listen to how he demonstrates a lack of confidence in things that we could be reasonably confident about. So this is a game that he's playing. So listen to how I will point it out, of course.
So he took a short journey. That short journey was one that was consistent with the medical advice, consistent with the medical guidance. When he...
Once again, who would tell somebody who had suffered from COVID-19, had explained, I have eye problems, I have trouble seeing? Well, what you should do is you should get in a car and drive around a bit.
Arrived at just outside Barnard Castle. He went for a very short walk.
No, sorry, Mr. Gove. We don't need to go into all of that detail because we heard him yesterday. So are you telling me that doctors told him to take that drive? He was following medical advice?
I'm saying the doctors cleared him to be able to return to work, and he was able...
Okay, doctors, he says, doctors cleared him to return to work. Now, this is very vague. We know that Dominic Cummings said that the doctors cleared him to return. Now, we don't know whether doctors actually cleared him, but that's irrelevant. Let's park that for a moment. The doctors cleared him to return to work. Now, what does that mean? Under normal circumstances, return to work would be you go back to your office. But we're not under normal circumstances at the moment. We're under a lockdown. So return to work could mean return to your activities, but of course via Skype, via Zoom or whatever tool Boris Johnson and his cabinet. We have seen videos of Boris Johnson conducting meetings using Zoom or using some sort of video conferencing software. So when the doctor said you can return to your activities, did they mean you can return to London to your activities, or you can return to your normal activities but stay in isolation? I think there's an important difference here. But unfortunately, Michael Gove doesn't explain that.
Able to return to work.
But you said that we should take medical advice. That's how you started when I said, what should we do if you think that you've got a problem with your eyesight?
And he did take medical advice and was told that he could return to work, and indeed he could drive safely as well.
So
No, the doctors did not say that. What doctors would say, yes, if you're not seeing very well, go and drive back to work?
he didn't need to go to Barnard Castle. He could have gone straight down the motorway.
Well, I think that he was wise to make sure that he was comfortable before driving back down to London on the A1, an inevitably busier road. And of course, it is the case that it was part of the National Police Chiefs Council guidance that you could drive at that time in order to take exercise as well.
OK.
But you could drive to go to take exercise. How is that relevant to going back to London? It wasn't... You can drive to London. Who was driving to London? Who was driving 260 miles to do exercise? Once again, you're mixing up the rules. Does Michael Gove actually know the rules?
Okay, so he didn't need to go to Barnard Castle. He could have gone straight down the motorway.
He could have done, and of course it's perfectly possible that he might have made that decision, but I can understand why he just wanted to make sure that he was comfortable behind the wheel, and also, as I say, it was consistent with the National Police Chief Council guidance at that time.
What regrets do you have that a senior government advisor took COVID-19 from a city hotspot to a rural part of the country where he then needed to use the services of the National Health Service?
Well, I think the first thing to bear in mind is that throughout it all, Dominic was concerned for the
Just
health...
answer my question. That would be great, Mr. Gove. I'm sorry, we only have a limited amount of time. As you know, you have other interviews to do as well. What regrets do you have that a senior government minister, senior government advisor took...
She's very good.
COVID-19 from a city hotspot to a rural part of the country and then into an NHS hospital there?
Well, again, your question, which has a number of different sub-clauses to it, requires a careful answer. Let me give it. And that careful answer is this. It was the case that Dominic made sure that his family unit was in a position, he, his wife and his son, not to infect others. And by going...
How? They left London, they drove 260 miles, which is 5 hours. Of course they were infecting others. They drove for 5 hours. Now, it's possible, unlikely, but it's possible that they filled up the car with bottles to pee in and food to eat and coffee to drink along the way, so they wouldn't actually have to stop anywhere and get out and have something to eat or to use the toilet. That's possible, but I think it's unlikely. So there's a risk. I don't know how high the risk is. We may never know how high the risk was, but there was a risk that he was infecting other people on his journey from London to Durham. Then his wife was feeling ill, so they went to the hospital. Sorry, his child was feeling ill, so they went to the hospital. He said he stayed in the car. She said that, he said that she went into the hospital. Now, this is important to know, because if she was infected and he was infected, they were traveling from Durham home, their home in Durham, or their location in Durham, to a hospital.
To a specific location in Durham, and by maintaining social isolation during that period, they reduced the risk of anyone else needing to have social contact with them, and therefore the risk of the infection spreading.
Why did his wife go to hospital with the child then when she had COVID-19 symptoms?
They dialed 999 when their child was specifically ill, and it was the case that Dominic and his wife were advised to take their son to that hospital. Dominic remained in the car throughout and had no contact with him.
Okay, but did they explain to the people in the hospital that they were infected or possibly infected?
Anyone else?
Was the emergency services advised that the wife had COVID-19 and she was still told, that's okay, you can come into the hospital?
I don't know, I wasn't on that 999 call.
No, you...
What an arrogant prick Michael Gove is. oh, I wasn't on that 999 call. What an arrogant prick you are. Up until this stage, you have been saying, Dominic Cummings did this, he maintained social distancing, he did everything that's right, he drove this distance, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, you are completely confident about everything. And now you're saying, oh, I wasn't on that 999 call. Instead of saying something like, I don't know. That would be a more honest response. But you're an arrogant prick. So you're going, well, I wasn't on the 999 call, so how would I know? What an arrogant prick you are, Michael Gove. You're arrogant about things you don't know, and you're arrogant about things you pretend to know.
You weren't, but we both know that that would not have been the case, don't we? And we also know that there was a niece on standby who they had travelled specifically up to spend time with, if necessary, who could have done that. That was her role. That's why they went there. Is that not the case?
No.
Why not?
I think it's important to stress that the niece and other family members at all times maintained an appropriate social distance.
How do you know this? Were you there? Dominic Cummings may have said it to you, but how do you know? Were you there, Michael? Unless this is a revelation that Michael Gove was actually there in Durham as well. He's very confident about things that he has absolutely no possibility of knowing. How can you say that there was absolutely no chance that they came in contact with? They did not come in contact with. You could at best say, well, Dominic Cummings said this. Dominic Cummings said he didn't do this, or Dominic Cummings said he did do this. That's as far as you can go. I know as much about what happened as you do, Michael. But you're extremely confident about things that you can't possibly know. How is that possible?
From Dominic, from Mary and their son, and it was, as Dominic explained yesterday, the case that they dropped groceries outside and made sure that the family were supported in that way. But throughout, Dominic, Mary and their son sought to ensure that and indeed did ensure, that they maintained social distancing from their family and others.
OK, so they took COVID-19 from a hotspot to a rural area. That is a matter of fact. They subsequently one of them took it into a hospital. That is a matter of fact. Why did they leave London, I suppose, is another question. You have been friends pushing. You have been friends for...
So the reason they left London, I believe, is probably for a number of reasons. One is that Dominic Cummings didn't really believe in the lockdown. Now, he has come out during his press conference and said, no, he believed in it. Now, the fact that he actually had to explain that he believed in it is somewhat telling, if you read between the lines. But I believe that he didn't really believe in it, and he was probably tired of staying in London. He said, to hell with this, let's go to Durham, let's go and visit my parents. They have a nice house up in Durham, let's go there. I'm tired of staying in London. Boris is in hospital, or Boris is sick, or I can't meet with Boris. What am I to do here? Let's just take a break from all of this and let's go to Durham. And to hell with the consequences. Now I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat for a moment and say perhaps Dominic Cummings did this on purpose in order to undermine the lockdown because he was against it. Now, I have no evidence to support that, but it would be an interesting hypothesis. Now, I'll remove my hat again, and let's go back to what Michael Gove has to say.
For pushing 20 years, I think. How disappointed are you that a friend of yours was so desperate that he felt that he had no alternative but to get into a car at midnight with his youngster and his sick wife and drive 260 miles and didn't feel that he could pick up the phone to you?
Who would call Michael Gove? Look, I'm being mean here, but it's Michael Gove. Does Michael Gove actually have any friends? Would anyone call up Michael Gove and say, Michael, we need your help? Unless it's to cover our asses. That's as far as I can think of how far Michael Gove will go. I would like to see Michael Gove after this interview, when he gets on the phone to Dominic Cummings and goes, "What the friggin' hell did you do? You threw me to the lions here. I've covered your friggin' arse for I don't know how long, and you owe me big time."
I would never have expected him to have picked up the phone to me.
If I had a friend who was in that position, I would...
Michael Gove doesn't have friends. Michael Gove doesn't understand what a friend is. For Michael Gove, you have politicians, you have colleagues, but what are these friends you're talking about? Are there people you work with? Are there people that you boss around? Michael Gove probably has never had a friend, so he doesn't understand what a friend is.
Would be devastated if they didn't feel that they could turn to me and I could take groceries to their door for them, or anything else that we could do, social distancing. You don't feel that?
No, Dominic took a decision, which was to ensure that his family was safe, that he was going to isolate from others, and to ensure that other members of his extended family could provide him with that support. And I think that was the right thing to do. I wouldn't have expected Dominic to have asked me to intervene in.
Why would he ask me? I wouldn't give a crap. Why would anyone ask me to do something like this? Maybe they would ask one of these so-called friends you're talking about.
This way, and also, okay, I think it's important to stress that we don't know. Dominic's wife has not had COVID testing, so some of your earlier assertions, I'm not sure, necessarily borne out.
Well, her piece.
This is interesting. So Dominic Cummings didn't get tested. I don't believe he didn't get tested, and his wife didn't get tested. Now, his wife is probably more possibly a case of not getting tested, but there's I cannot believe there isn't one shred of my being that believes that Dominic Cummings didn't get tested. How is it possible that Dominic Cummings didn't get tested? Celebrities in the UK are able to get tests. How is it possible that Dominic Cummings wasn't tested? Unless he decided not to be tested, then that's a different issue we'd have to discuss.
Her article in The Spectator tends to suggest that she has, though, doesn't it? What about his brother-in-law? He lives just round the corner. I mean, why did he not turn to him?
I think because they had their own childcare responsibilities, and also because there were other risks as well in staying in London. Looking at it in the right.
So the other risks he's pointing to are there were some people protesting outside Dominic Cummings' house. Now, I don't know exactly why these people were protesting. Maybe it's because of his politics or his policies, but irrespective of that, there were people protesting outside his home. Now, Dominic Cummings gave this as a sort of an excuse as to why he also left. But surely if he felt his home, his life was in danger, or his child's well-being was in danger, surely he could have asked for a police escort or a bobby even, to be placed in front of his home. He is the chief advisor to the Prime Minister. Surely he could ask for that and he would be able to get that. Once again, there are so many holes in this story, so many plot holes, things that don't make sense, things that are illogical. You have to suspend your disbelief in order to actually believe what happened here, according to Dominic Cummings.
You can, as a number of people have, interrogate every single one of those decisions. Dominic said that it's perfectly reasonable for people to think that he should have acted other than as he did. Of course, that's reasonable. But I'd say two things. The first thing is that a number of allegations were made about how he behaved, which we now know to be untrue. And it's also the case that what he did was consistent with the law, consistent with the guidelines.
No, it was not. That's the main issue here. The rules were to stay at home. Now, there are certain exceptional circumstances that if you need to leave your home. Like, for example, an exceptional circumstance would be, my house is on fire, I need to leave. But any of what Dominic Cummings and this guy here is trying to do is trying to inject the idea that Dominic Cummings left his home because he felt his child was in danger, because of, or was infected, or there was some danger to his child. But the problem was that, and for that reason they moved the child. But the reality is that Dominic Cummings was the one who was infected, not the child. The rules surround a child being infected or a child being suspected to have this virus, not the parents. That's what it's about. Dominic Cummings felt he was, or believed he was infected, or he was infected, and he broke the rules. This is not about the child. This is about Dominic Cummings. Stop trying to make it about the child.
Consistent with keeping his family safe, and also critically consistent with reducing the risk of the infection spreading to others.
Which number of allegations?
Well, there were allegations, for example, that he went back to Durham.
That was one allegation. We also heard that he'd gone to Barnard Castle, and we were told by Downing Street that was campaigning newspapers who'd come up with that. But he subsequently acknowledged that he had. We've heard from the bishop.
So I'd like to just focus on this a moment. So what happened was the newspapers had said that Dominic Cummings had been seen at the castle. Then Downing Street said, this is just slander. This is the media trying to paint Dominic Cummings as an evil guy and breaking the rules or whatever. And then Dominic Cummings came out and said, yeah, I actually was there. But it was just for a walk. You're trying to paint the media as the problem. Once again, redirect the conversation away from the real problem and focus on something peripheral. Focus on something that's not related to the real problem. The media is the issue here. This is the angle that they have. This is their narrative. Blame the media. The media is the problem, not what Dominic Cummings did. But at the end of the day, some people will buy it, but I think and I hope the majority will not. They will see through this crap.
Bishop of Leeds, he tweeted on Sunday saying, the question now is, do we accept being lied to, patronised and treated by a PM as mugs? The moral question is not for Cummings. It is for the Prime Minister and ministers, yourself, MPs who find this behaviour acceptable. What are we to teach our children? I ask as a responsible father.
Well, I wish the bishop well.
So what should you teach your children? What should we teach our children? That they should follow the rules or they should break the rules? That they should lie or they should be honest?
Is that all you want to say to him?
I wish him well.
Goodness, are you sure that's all you want to say to him?
What an arrogant prick, once again. He's an arrogant prick. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care about public health. He doesn't care about public safety, ordinary people, the NHS. He doesn't care about any of that. He only cares about defending his position, his party, and Dominic Cummings at this moment. Now, if it was necessary, he would be throwing Dominic Cummings under a bus. But it's not necessary at the moment. Maybe it will be necessary later on. But at the moment, the party line is we defend Dominic Cummings. And he's doing it.
Yes, you know, I'm a Christian too. And I think, therefore, I have great respect for the church, for bishops, for the leadership that they exercise. I wish them well.
Before yesterday's news conference, there was 72 hours of confusion and mounting anger from ordinary people who followed the rules. Do you concede in any way, shape or form that this has been mishandled?
Yeah, well, I think all of us can look at different aspects of it, and I think it's probably right, Kay, that if Dominic had given a full explanation of all these events earlier, then some of the confusion that has arisen might not have arisen.
So the problem was not that he broke the rules, but that he didn't tell people sooner. Really, you're going in that direction now. So just throw anything against the wall and hope it sticks. So the problem was not that he broke the rules, it's that he didn't tell people soon enough. So, you know, if I say the problem is not me drinking and driving, the problem is me telling people later about it or not telling them soon enough. Like, what are you trying to tell us here?
I think that is a fair point, but I think that fundamentally, now that he has given an account, all of us can make our own mind up whether we're bishops or broadcasters, about
Bishops are broadcasters. So he's attacking the media and he's attacking the church. He's attacking anyone who's criticizing Dominic Cummings. But this is very interesting because if you listen to all of the language he has presented in this video, everything is about defending the party, defending Dominic Cummings, defending the Prime Minister, defending himself, but never saying sorry or it was a mistake or we did something wrong. Why is he doing this? You could say, well, because he doesn't know. He doesn't believe Dominic Cummings did anything wrong. No, this is about defending the party, defending him, the Prime Minister, whoever, the government itself, later on. This is not about now. This is about later on. Because later on there will be a public inquiry about how the government handled every aspect of this outbreak, this pandemic. And there will be very difficult questions for people to answer. And now they're very careful about what they say. Michael Gove has been trained, has been coached on what to say. Don't say this, say this. Avoid this topic, redirect if you can't, talk about something else, blame the media, blame everyone else, but never, ever, ever say that we made a mistake. If you have to say someone is sorry about something, it's about something irrelevant, such as the time, or if people were offended, or if the media got the wrong impression, or something like that. Because when there is a public inquiry, this could be used in evidence against you. Remember that. So this is the coaching that they receive. And it's quite disgusting, because it's a distraction. It's an attempt to protect the party, protect particular individuals within the party against some form of litigation or prosecution in the future.
about the appropriateness of his actions.
But you do feel it has been mishandled?
Well, Dominic himself said that he regretted that he didn't say more earlier. And of course, you know, there are people who will take on the role of commentator, and that's quite right. But I'm not a media commentator. I'm a minister trying to take appropriate actions in order to support people.
This is almost as if he's prepared for the public inquiry. He said, some people are going in their direction, commentating on it. I'm just a simple minister trying to do the best I can.
If people want to make judgments about what was and was not right in media terms, then of course that's entirely fair, and
Okay.
Dominic himself acknowledged that perhaps saying more earlier might have been better, yes.
How appropriate was it for him to hold a news conference in the garden of Number 10, given the Special Advisor's Code of Conduct?
I think that lots of people were asking Dominic to explain himself earlier. And then when he did, there were a number of people who criticised him for explaining himself in a way which was both respectful of social distancing rules and allowed the media to ask all the questions that they wanted. So again, it's perfectly possible to criticise Dominic for not saying more earlier, and it's perfectly possible to criticise Dominic.
Once again, he's defending something that will not be a problem. Oh, it's perfectly fine to criticize him for not presenting this earlier. It's perfectly fine for criticizing the venue. This is irrelevant. This is avoiding the true criticism.
Dominic for having that press conference in Number 10 Downing Street. What it's not possible to do is to hold both views simultaneously.
I know that we are out of time, so let me ask you one very quick question, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Shops are opening again soon. When is it that I'll be able to go to Specsavers?
Sorry, I missed that.
I just wondered when I might be able to go to Specsavers.
Well, I'll give you the number of my optician, Kay, and I'm sure that they will make sure that you have absolutely the very best in eyewear.
Excellent.
Fantastic, fantastic. Tongue-in-cheek, but the issue is extremely serious. Public health has been undermined. The role of government has been undermined. And it's all been undermined to protect two individuals. Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings. One which is interdependent on the other. One that depends upon the other to survive politically and for their career. But let's see how things work out. Once again, I predicted that Dominic Cummings would not be fired. I didn't think Boris Johnson would get rid of him. He's too important to Boris Johnson, and he is somewhat important to the Conservative Party. But let's see how this story evolves. There is an attempt to brush it under the carpet and move on. Boris Johnson has pretty much said that. But it's not going to go away immediately. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server where we share news, chat, and have some fun? If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.